Hello, thanks for joining me. My name is Edwin Patterson. The topic today is, did Joseph have a plan to write the Book of Mormon prior to the creation in 1829? The antis contend, oh yes. And I want to go through some of the things they say on the internet, in sites that are Joseph Smith sites, saying he was the author of the Book of Mormon. They must take that. They don't have any other alternatives today. If it wasn't Joseph, there's nobody else out there. So what would they say? What kind of angle would they take? The things I looked for as I went through these different websites is, give me an asterisk. Show me where you got that. Now, we are 195 years removed from the translation of the Book of Mormon. At least the antis in his day had the ability to know him or meet him and talk about him from their knowledge. People today, the antis today, in my opinion, are just making it up, because there are no asterisks in these things that I'm looking at. They're saying could be, maybe, should have been. But in terms of reality, it seems very thin. So let's read a few things they have to say. Okay. So the antis agree that Joseph Smith created the Book of Mormon in about 60 days. So 57 is the exact time. 60 days. Okay, which is about 8 pages a day, which is really 10 pages a day, which, if you've ever done that, that's a lot of translation every day. But Joseph had years in which to plot out his story in his mind. So, and we'll get into this in a little more detail. The antis contend that when he was 17, he had seen Moroni in September of 1823. He was telling stories to his parents, and his mother chronicled this in her biography, that Joseph would tell us around the fireplace stories of the Lamanites and the Nephites. So he had seen whatever he'd seen, and he was sharing it. The antis take that to a whole new level. Well, what kind of level did they take? Let's see what they have to say. The transcription of the book itself was frequently interrupted with breaks of weeks and months, which Joseph could recharge his creative energies. Again, we have 57 days. Started April 7th, went to June 30th, 85 total days. So there were days he's moved from down south up to the Whitmer home. He planted his crops. They saw angels. They had a lot of things going on. And we had a person in the church who's documented all that to get to the 57 days. This person's suggesting it was much longer. And anytime he had a break, he could recharge and rethink of new things to say. I don't know if you ever tried any of that. It's very, very difficult. Okay, let's go on to the next. Joseph had already, at age 23, accepted the prevailing mound builder myth that a super white race had been annihilated by a dark race. Now, View of the Hebrews is a book written in 1825. No evidence that Joseph ever saw it. I've read the book. It's a well-written book. It does talk about mound builders. But Joseph never speaks about mound builders. He talks about pushing dirt up against the walls of different towns to protect themselves. That's as close as it gets. As far as him believing in a super white race being wiped out by a dark race, I can find nothing along that line. Again, it's innuendo. All it's meant to do is say, hey, members of the church, you might be on tippy ground here, watch out. And yet, there's no truth to it, because there's no substantiation. Okay, let's keep going. Joseph was already an accomplished, the common cultural belief that Native Americans were Hebrews. Actually, the belief was that they were the 10 lost tribes, not Hebrews. That came out of the View of the Hebrews from Brother Smith, who was a reverend at that time in 1825. So they're saying he already had all these thoughts, and there were a lot of rumbles. I agree with that. But they're saying that's the basis of how he wrote and what he wrote when you get to the Book of Mormon. In the Book of Mormon, the 10 lost tribes are never brought up. Not once. Interesting. Let's keep plowing on. He had been working on his basic Book of Mormon story in his mind for at least 6 years, sometimes 17 to 23. So, did he or did he not? That's the question that they are sure he did. We'll go on to see what else they have to say. Joseph Smith spent literally years planning out the Book of Mormon. Joseph is on record as having shared stories about people and events in the Book of Mormon for nearly 10 years before committing it to formal form. Well, actually, it was 6 years, not 10 years. And Mother Smith mentioned it once. That's it, in all of her biography. And all these stories now come as innuendos of what Joseph probably was doing in his mind. And when the antis start doing that, they get back to Fawn Brodie. In her book, No Man Knows My History in 1944, she told what Joseph thought in his mind over and over and over and over again. It's impossible to do. This is 195 years since the Book of Mormon was translated. How can people know what was in his mind other than making it up, innuendos, or lies? Okay, let's go to the next. Joseph Smith spent literally, let's go to turn the page here. A large portion of the Book of Mormon is simply quotes of the Bible. Okay, there are, at least I can find about 20 different chapters in the Book of Mormon that come from the Bible or come looking from the Bible, in Isaiah and etc. That certainly isn't a large portion. And we've already gone through that with other videos. The things that were put in there are not exact replicas of what's in the King James Version. So we'll cover that more in another video, but that's what they're taking as a tactic there. He's building the Book of Mormon by taking out of the Bible. The stories of the Book of Mormon directly portray stories from Joseph's life, such as his father's dream of the tree of life when Joseph was 5 years old. So there was Lehi had a dream. And was it like Joseph Smith Sr.'s? I've read both. There's some similarity to it. Is that where he got the inspiration for it? I would say no, in my own personal biased opinion. However, that's worthy of thinking about. Well, what else did he have? That's the only example they can give in the entire Book of Mormon of situations that are going on around Joseph's family. So again, I can look at all of those. Did Joseph have a plan to write the Book of Mormon? Well, the evidence shows that it was not a planned event over time. It was not something that Joseph's going, all right, I can do this. Now the last video coming, or the next video coming, will show how did he write it physically, how did it come out of his brain in the way produced. You'll find that very interesting. I'll see you on down the road.